Yeah, Jump 2. Oh, stay out the graveyard, my mama prays hard. I was in Brazil and women treated me like Neymar. Rockstar, Sammy Hagar, I'm still accelerating, this ain't my top speed. I feel like the one, I can't be worried about top threes. You swimming in calm seas, good luck when it gets rough. They'd rather me messed up, they tryna stop my movement, but it's you who's gonna get stuck.
They can never say they made me, tryna leave a blueprint like I'm Jay-Z. Oh, she knows that she could never save me. They can't take the blame, so they gon' blame me.
What's up, everybody? I am your host, Monte, and this is episode 6 of Failing Forward. I took a little sabbatical, y'all. I'm not even gonna lie. I've been living life. You know what I'm saying? One thing y'all don't know about us as content creators, in order for us to give y'all this material, we gotta go out in the world and live a little bit. We can't live on our laptops or watching other creators. We literally have to go out there and get new experiences in order for us to bring forth this material for y'all. So bear with your boy. I actually took a couple trips back home to Philly for the holidays. Christmas is actually tomorrow. I don't know when y'all will be receiving this video or audio podcast, but you know what I'm saying, it'll come out very soon. I'm feeling very good going into the new year, man. It's been a lot of new recent developments in my life that I'm excited to share with y'all in the near future. It's kind of weird though, because I actually prepared this podcast episode weeks ago, and I just been sitting on it because so much has been happening. I've been up in the air traveling. Different things have been going on with me health-wise, and then, you know, just maneuvering different things going on in my life. So I just been sitting on it. But I feel like today I'm in a good mood. I'm excited to come here with y'all, and I'm ready to record. So while y'all listening today, I have a quick question for y'all. And, you know, for this question, I want you to just think about your life the whole time you're listening to this episode, right? And have y'all ever envisioned something in your mind that you wanted so badly for yourself, and then you finally got that thing, or you reached that place that you once hoped to be in, and then you realize that it's nothing like you thought it would be, right? So let me know if y'all can relate to that. And not even to be dramatic, but I just feel like I've been having those thoughts very frequently lately, and I mean that in relation to my dating life, my finances, friendships, my overall wellness, and even with this podcast at times, right? So, you know, sometimes I get off work and I sit in silence on this very couch, and I just look around and I think about my life like, damn, this is really it, huh? This is adulthood, right? And I know so many of y'all have those feelings, so why not just talk about it, right? So today, you know, I'm going to talk about some of the ways in which I've been able to navigate and survive this thing called adulthood. This is one of the hardest hoods there is. You got fatherhood, you got motherhood, and then you got actually being from the hood. But this is up there with all of them, you know what I'm saying? So today, I'm going to talk to y'all about, you know, maneuvering dating, maneuvering friendships from fellow content creators. I'm trying to balance your 9 to 5 and your 5 to 9. And then I'm going to give y'all some tips on, you know, what I've seen in my experience and how I've been able to maneuver this. But before we jump into the episode, I will say in the time that I've been away, I've been listening to a lot of the new music lately. So Russ really surprised me. It was a time period where I actually liked Russ, like when he first came out and he was dropping the freestyles left and right. And then I don't know what happened, but slowly it became a F Russ train. And then I just saw how the tide turned for him in terms of his social media presence and fan engagement. But I will say, you know, this last project, Chomp 2, I was actually watching the episode of Rory and Mal. Shout out to them. That's one of my favorite podcasts. And I just love everything that Russ champions and stands for in terms of ownership, self-belief, and confidence. So if y'all have an opportunity to check out that episode, please do. But also check out Chomp 2 if you're a hip-hop fan. Also, if you're a hip-hop purist, I feel like this was strictly bars. Aside from that tape, I've been listening to Ross's new tape. You know what I'm saying? Ross' new tape is cool. When I first listened, I was like, I'm not really feeling it. But since it has definitely grown on me, the P&B new project, I'm from Philly, so I gotta bump that. I've been rocking to that. And, you know, initially it was the same thing with P&B. I haven't heard him in so long, so I think I had such high expectations. But when I got into it, you know, I listened to it more and more. I was like, all right, this is cool. You know what I'm saying? A Boogie, I just tapped into his project today. And of course, I'm listening to my boy Dris, always running his material back. That's who's on my intro. So check out his music. But, you know what I'm saying? aside from that, I just been listening to a lot of music, also watching a lot of podcasts. So Rory and Mal, All the Smoke. I recently tapped into Nick Cannon's class, which was awesome. I recently watched the episode with him and Michael K. Williams, which was phenomenal. What else I've been watching and listening to, man? I've been listening to a lot of stuff. I've been around, man. So I just been taking in new ideas to come up with this new material. In the meantime, I'm also working on getting a podcast named Trademark so I could really bring some dope stuff to y'all in 2022. I ain't gonna say too much about that, but I'm saying, just stay tuned, man. But all right, let's get into the meat and potatoes of why we all here. So I'll start off with dating. For those of y'all listening to this episode, y'all can't see how animated I am. And, one thing y'all will realize about me is, my personality, it shifts. Like some days I'm super calm and laid back. Some days I got a whole bunch of energy. So you just got to catch me on whatever day it is. I'm a Gemini, y'all, so I'm all over the place. But anyways, when it comes to dating, I will be the first to tell y'all that I have not even the slightest clue of what I'm doing out here. And I mean that honestly, like when it comes to my love life, it's like lighting a candle and then watching the flame die out. And I know that sounds crazy, y'all, but I just wanted to be honest. So, if y'all are expecting something super inspiring to come from my mouth, then I want to sincerely apologize in advance because I've never been Dr. Love, y'all. So just bear with me. But anyways, I'm going to share my experience with trying to maneuver the dating scene, and y'all can take away from my story whatever y'all do, but I can only be honest about my experiences and where I'm at in my life. So, prior to moving to Atlanta 6 months ago, I had honestly done so much soul searching, y'all. At this time, I had completed my education. I thought I had the girl of my dreams. I got my first apartment outside of college, and I was seemingly living my big boy life like I had always dreamt it. And to be completely honest, I was actually doing a little better than I had ever imagined as a kid, because when I was younger, I couldn't even really imagine what things would be like during my 20s just because of where I come from and, the hardships in my area. Sometimes it's hard to see life past 16, to be completely honest. So I think I was doing pretty well in all of the areas that seem to matter most in society, but when it came to dating, my love life is just the one thing I couldn't seem to get right, no matter how hard I was trying or how well I was doing in my academic and my professional life. Like, since my junior year of high school, there have been countless girls that have entered my life at one point or another, and then they were going with the wind for whatever reason. But as I look back on my relationships, it's becoming more and more clear why things haven't worked out in my favor up until this point. And I'll tell y'all exactly what I mean by that, because everything is so clear in hindsight, right? Life is 20/20 in hindsight. But back in high school, I was definitely a certified lover boy in every sense of the phrase. I really relished being a pretty boy athlete who had access to just about any girl I wanted, and I mean that humbly. But, at the same time, I've always had a very monogamous spirit, contrary to what people may think about me. And you can ask any of my friends, but at this time, I don't think my young mind had fully become swayed by the ways of the world. So, personally, I thought that every girl I met was the one, and we were going to spend the rest of our lives together. And I know that make me sound like a simp, y'all, but I'm just telling my truth, and unfortunately, all this led to was failed encounter after failed encounter and heartbreak after heartbreak. So by the time I was a senior, I went from somebody that prided himself on being a nice guy to saying nice guys finish last and all girls are the same. When I left high school, I was definitely one of those guys that was looked at as soft amongst my friends, just because my heart really always craved for a woman's presence. And I'm not ashamed to say that, because I've always had a soft spot for women. And I know it's because I grew up in a household full of them. I hope y'all can hear me, because I keep moving from my mic because I'm doing a million things at one time. But being raised by my grandmother and all my aunts, it just made my dealings with women just so natural and fluid. So, I would see all the things that they went through as a young kid, and honestly, this informed my love life and the things I would do when I left the house and how I would treat women. So, I would see my aunt in the room crying, bawling her eyes out because she was unhappy. I would see different dudes coming through the crib over the years, but none of them sticking around long enough to see me go to the next grade. I also wondered where were all of the men in my family and why none of my aunts had husbands, to be completely honest. So, from a young age, I knew that I wanted to do better than this, and I knew I wanted to do the opposite of what I was seeing. The only problem was that I was never given the proper tools or a good example of what true love is. And, because no men were around, I was never taught how to properly treat a woman. So, as I went out and started dating and doing things on my own, I really had to learn the hard way. And I know a lot of women, they get annoyed when they hear men say, oh, I didn't have the tools. And that's not me making excuses. That's just me saying exactly what it is. So many of us come from broken homes. And not to say that our homes are not filled with love. I think that, our parents, they do the best that they can. A lot of them are just doing, what they saw. And it comes to a time where you got to break a generational curse. But a lot of times, you're going to fail before you can move forward and get it right. No pun intended. But anyways, by the time I got to college, I was so desperate to shed that pretty boy soft image that I had developed over the years that I was willing to do just about anything to forge a new reputation for myself. And that includes, acting tough so other guys will respect me and think highly of me. I wanted girls to know that, I just wasn't a pushover and whatever else they might think. So, with this in mind, I knew I had to get stronger. I was already playing sports, so I was good in that regard. I got a little bit louder, a little bit more rowdy, and I was just even a little bit more willing to snap on somebody if I felt disrespected. So I think this was all a part of my search of becoming what I thought it meant to be a man and, how to become more desirable to women. Because in the black community, we have this running joke that all light-skinned dudes are soft and feminine. So as I got older, I started to get away from what was natural and innate to me as a means to prove my worth to others and my masculinity. Another terrible thing that I was taught was that the key to getting women to like you was to act like you don't care about them and to not give any one girl too much of your attention. And to be honest, I've realized that all that does is create an emotionally unavailable man. It'll never get you the results that you want. So, long story short, y'all, by the time I had got to college, I was becoming a complete asshole. And I'm making sure that I look directly in the camera while saying that, but I definitely was a mess. And it took a while for me to get to the point that I am today, but it's honestly gotten to the point that my family just be waiting around who's next? Who he gonna bring to the door next? Because it's clear to them that I can't keep a woman around, and that's fine for the sake of the joke. It's good to give my family a little laugh or whatever, but for my own sake, I knew that I had to do something to change the narrative in my life so I could start getting better results from my output. One of the first things I did throughout the pandemic was start going to therapy. And I've spoken about this before. I've spoken about it in greater depth on my personal YouTube channel. So if you're interested in hearing more about that, you can visit my YouTube channel at Tayloso, and I have a video talking about self-love. I have several videos talking about that topic. So, just sift through the catalog to see what you find. But, last year, I really started to do the work of healing so I could gain a greater understanding of myself. And, I did this after noticing certain patterns in my behavior. Most importantly, what I learned from this process was that I had a lot of unresolved trauma from childhood that needed to be unpacked, but also a lot of anger that was sitting inside of me for things that I just didn't understand about my family. It's deep, y'all. It's hard to talk about, and, another thing that I learned was that the love I so desperately craved as a kid, as a young adult, and even up until today, was actually a byproduct of the faulty relationship I had with my parents. So, I guess it's fair to say that not all girls are the same, but when you're unaware of your trauma, you'll typically bring the same set of eyes, the same perspective, and the same skill set into a new relationship. So the only thing that will change is the face on the person, but the patterns will still be the same. So I had to start doing the work of fixing those things within myself, and it's been an ongoing process. But I can honestly say that, I do feel myself maturing. becoming more emotionally intelligent, becoming more emotionally available, and lastly, just becoming a version of myself that I could stand out and be proud of. Now, I said all of that to say, I thought that when I came to Atlanta, I was instantly going to have this renewed love life and I would become this master at dating because of everything that I had learned in the past year or so. But to be honest, it just hasn't quite gone that way. And, what I'm realizing is that first and foremost, the dating pool will be the dating pool, meaning the average person that you come across in a dating app or the average woman that you meet in the bar, the club, or on the street is probably not going to be your person. It doesn't matter how attractive they are, how good you think y'all would look together, or even how many of your boxes they seem to check off. The sad truth is that attraction and chemistry are just not enough, because when you're dealing with another human being, one of the major things that we must learn as young adults is, first and foremost, everybody is at different stages when it comes to just figuring themselves out from a maturity standpoint, and also in having some level of understanding of what it is they actually want for themselves. And, simply put, we all have baggage that we bring into new situations. In your early 20s and even into your 30s, I would assume, you'll often come across people who just don't have a clue about what it is that they're doing out here. And that's cool for a while, because that's honestly most of us, and I've been down that road before. But I think at the least, as you get more experience with dating, it's important to have some level of boundaries, self-awareness, and intention while you out here. Even if your intention is just to have casual dating encounters with random people while you figure it out. You just have to be mindful and clear about exactly what you want, especially in a city like Atlanta, because if you don't, you could quickly find yourself into some tricky situations. And I have my short time here. In my case, I tried to approach dating in Atlanta in a way that I never did before, because, prior to coming here, I spent the majority of the lockdown working on myself. I went to therapy every other week. I was reading hella self-help books, journaling. I was meditating, praying, and just becoming more enlightened to who I truly am, and just learning my full story about where I've been. So it's almost like I came to Atlanta with a new set of eyes, literally, because, everything was so unfamiliar to me. I had, all of these new skills that I had equipped. I had all of these new fancy phrases, and overall, I just had a deeper understanding of how my past has influenced my present. But the only problem was I had never had time to apply any of the things I learned prior to coming here. This was going to be my first time. So, like I said earlier, I had spent the whole last year in Philly in the crib by myself because, for one, I tore my ACL and my meniscus, and we were on lockdown due to COVID. So the only people I was really seeing and talking to on a regular basis were my therapist and my family members. And, to be completely honest, I was too embarrassed for any girl to really see me in that state, because I was down bad, y'all. Like, I could barely walk straight. Like, this is how my knee looked. Like, this is how my leg was sticking out. So I would walk. I had a little pimp walk, you know what I'm saying? Like, it just wasn't cool, y'all. But anyways, like, when I got here in May, I was slightly getting back to myself. I was getting more confident because by that time I had my second surgery like 2 weeks before I came here. I was getting healthier, and I intended to put all of this new information to use. You know what I'm saying? Like, my homies call me Sniper. You know what I'm saying? Y'all gonna have to, you said, meet me in person to see why they call me Sniper, but it was definitely sniping season out here, if you know, you know. But, when I got down here, all that Grand Risings, Queen, I hope you ate today, stay hydrated, I am healed talk. Like, these women was looking at me like I was crazy. And it was honestly a little devastating, because I thought that now that I was being more intentional, that dating would get easier. But honestly, the more intentional you get, dating only gets harder, because now you have to be disciplined enough to stay committed to what it is that you want for yourself. You no longer have the privilege of being messy, irresponsible, or even indulging in things that aren't good for you just because now you know better. Now, I'm not perfect, y'all, by no means. So, I still made a lot of mistakes along the way. because you just can't control everything. But at the same time, I can honestly say that I've grown so much that my levels of awareness to toxicity and bad vibes is so much higher. It was like I got spidey senses to recognize red flags. And with that being said, my quick little dating spree, it got old fast because I was just disappointed with the whole scene out here, because it seemed like every good situation I came across just happened to go sour for whatever reason. And it wasn't the fact that any of these people were bad people. I hate calling people good or bad. It's just the fact that, like, when you out here maneuvering, you'll realize that there will be things that come with other people that are just straight up beyond you. Like, people will have certain qualities and traits about them that you just can't fix or see past, no matter how much time, energy, and effort you exert into a situation. And to be honest, it's not really even your responsibility to do any of that, because the reality of it is that those things won't change anyways unless that person themselves decides to make a change. And I think one of the hardest things for people to realize as they get older is that, as an adult, you are now solely responsible for the quality of life experience that you curate for yourself. So it doesn't really matter how challenging you think your life has been in comparison to somebody else if you're not willing to do anything to change the trajectory of your future. So you could sit around and complain about feeling slighted, shortchanged, or just about not getting the results that you want. Or you could be intentional about becoming the change that you would like to see. And, I mean all of that in the most constructive way. I don't want y'all to think that I'm coming for nobody. I'm just being truthful. And sometimes the truth do hurt. But, the beauty of life is that, for as long as you're alive, you will always have an opportunity to be better, move forward, and just inch a little bit closer to the person that you hope to become one day. And, through that process of being intentional with the ways that you use your time and energy, you are already embodying that person. It just takes time to cultivate and refine that image. It's kind of like a caterpillar, becoming a butterfly. It's that same concept, just in real life. So, to close this part out about dating, I'm saying, I'm telling y'all all my business, man. One of the best ways to start to figure some of this stuff out for yourself is, for one, just get out there and live. But just live with a little bit more purpose. Spend some time with yourself. Figure out what's really important to you, and then find the right mediums to express those things. Have more intentional and transparent conversations with family members and friends about who you are, what you would like to do. Ask them what they see in you. Try to recognize your patterns, and then just take action to make a change. I will say, just be warned that, this path does get lonely. And, some people will say that you've changed once you start to speak with a little bit more conviction over the things that you want in your life. But also, once you start calling out buffoonery and start holding people accountable, people don't like that. So, just be aware that you will encounter some of those things. But, what those people don't understand is that this newfound confidence that you have, it all comes from the work that you put in to become a better person. And the average person in their early 20s, they're not thinking about confronting past traumas, going to therapy, mindfulness, devotional journaling, practicing gratitude and affirmations, or doing the work to heal and get closer to their most authentic self. But you are. So that's all that really matters. And I wish you the best of luck on your journey of, working towards becoming your most full self. And this doesn't mean that every day of your life needs to be all zen and you have to be perfect. I think it just means that you're placing intentional effort into the things that you want. You're manifesting and affirming. And, you're just getting 1% better each day. And I think, that's what life is about. Now, I will say that, since then, it's been some recent developments in my love life, man. So, like I said, this episode, I've been sitting on this for some weeks now, y'all. So, maybe in the near future, y'all might hear about what's going on in my life, you said. I don't know, y'all. But on to the topic of friendships. This one is just so deep and complicated, and I know so many of y'all will be able to relate to this portion just because as we get older, our friendships just tend to transition just like we transition in life. People move to new cities, people get married, people have children, People are excelling in their careers. Some people are pursuing a passion. Some people are pursuing a 9 to 5. And, all of these things can just take us in a different direction. But when it comes to my life specifically, as of late, man, I've really severed ties with people who I've literally gone through life with. And when I look back on the situations that got us to this point, I honestly don't even know how. And I mean that sincerely. And I don't want nobody to take this portion of the podcast personally. Like I said, I'm just being honest and transparent about my experiences and what I've been going through. But, I would like to consider myself a good friend. Like, I would assume that most people who are close to me could vouch for that. But, the moral of the story is that no one is perfect, and, things change. And sometimes no matter how badly you want somebody to stay in your life, sometimes we could just be growing in different directions. And that doesn't mean that things will always be this way or that anyone is doing anything wrong. It could just mean that for this portion of your story, maybe this person just wasn't meant to be around, because if they were, maybe you would have missed out on something important that you were meant to learn. And I mean that sincerely. In my case, I think that this could definitely be a gift and a curse, because it does hurt and it's painful. And I mean that at the core, to, not have the same relationship that you had with people that you went through life with. And I mean from kids, elementary school, middle school, high school, people that you spent every day with, to now is you just feel the difference in energy and how they treat you, or you see the difference in how other people that are close to them react to you. I have a friend of mine that I just reconnected with, and I ain't even planning to say this, but over Thanksgiving break, we reconnected, and I finally went to his house for the first time since high school. It's been 5 years since I seen this man's mom, and when she saw me, it looked like she seen a ghost. And it was just crazy, because I used to be at this person's house every single day, and we went years where our relationship was just kind of rocky, and stuff like that. It just show you how short life is. And when we reconnected, that was the basis of a lot of our conversations, that yo, bro, life is short. Let's talk. If I hurt you, let me know how I hurt you, and let's make amends for that. And one thing I do realize is that black men, I can't speak for any other group of men, we struggle to be vulnerable and communicate how we feel. And I'm making sure that I look at the camera for this portion, because it's completely off the record. This is not scripted. I just want to say, you have to learn how to communicate effectively. And it's definitely okay for you to be vulnerable. So, if somebody hurt you, life is short. If you love that person, go and save that relationship. Do what you got to do to save your relationship, man. Sometimes, we think, we just these grand individuals, we can do no wrong, and we don't see no fault or error in things that we do. And, some of our behaviors we may think that they're minor, but the way they land and impact others may be major. So, just be mindful, man. And, just fight for your relationships, man. The same way that you will fight for a woman after you made a mistake. Fight for your homeboy if he mean that much to you, man. Life is short. When you come across good people in this life, you got to keep them. So, sorry for my quick rant, y'all. But what I was saying is, I think it's a gift and a curse in my case, because, being alone is forcing me to stand on my own 2 feet in a way that's different than I ever have before. Also learning about the depth of love and, the complexity of love also, because going through these situations, I'm understanding what it means to give somebody grace and space, but also how to be tolerant of things even when I don't necessarily understand them or what I did. So, just because you and someone aren't on the best of terms, that doesn't mean that they now must turn into an enemy. What I would say is that you probably just need to refocus your energy and switch up the frequency in your life at that current moment. So whether that's focusing on new things, learning a new skill, learning a new trade, whatever you need to do to channel positive energy, because, sometimes when we act from a place of emotion and being hurt, we can make decisions that we can regret. So, that would be my advice on that. But, going back to my original point about learning to stand on my own 2 feet in a way that I never have before, I'm not saying that I'm not naturally a self-sufficient person, because for anybody that know me, I'm extremely self-reliant, sometimes to a fault. But, what I'm actually saying is that through being alone in a new city, I no longer have the security of knowing that my friends will be at events to cheer me on and support all of the things I do. I no longer have the ability to pull up on somebody that I genuinely trust and look them in their eyes and check their body language when I run an idea past them to get their true thoughts before I share something with you all in the world. And, most importantly, I no longer have the comfort of knowing at least one person out here will always have my back like I did in the past. And, while that may sound sad, I'm learning to look at it as an incredible opportunity to do a few things. And before I go any forward, I do have people out here, y'all. I don't want y'all to think like I don't have no friends out here, because I do. But, a lot of these friendships are new. And y'all know how that is. Like, it's certain things that you're just not going to trust a person with, that you would rather just kind of, resolve on your own because y'all haven't built that, bond yet. So, I hope those things come. But, as of right now, like, I just feel like I'm solo dolo. I'm just out here thugging. And there's so many situations that I go through by myself that I don't tell nobody. And it's hard. Like, I'm looking y'all in the eye on certain parts because I want y'all to know how real it is out here, man. But anyways, one of those things that I have the opportunity to do is, network and build an entirely new community. And this is something I pride myself on being able to do. And it's honestly a big part of the reason that I came to Atlanta, because I wanted the opportunity to grow my brand and try to appeal to a larger audience in a new market. So, a large part of this journey for me involves getting out there and being more social than I ever was in Philly. And I think that that's a good thing. And people listening that know me in real life, they probably like, you being more social, tell you literally a social butterfly. But I think for me, I've never been one to play the club scene, to play, the strip club, or even certain spots that everybody would go to in Philly, just because, I was always concerned for my safety. So I just had to move right. If you grew up in the hood, you know exactly what I mean about moving right. But when I was in college, like, if it wasn't a public speaking engagement, doing some volunteer work in the community, being a part of a club, working towards a goal that I have, that was me outside of my academics. Like, I was social, but I was social to make an impact and get things done. So at this portion of my life where I'm no longer defined by school, it's kind of weird getting out there to just, do regular fun stuff. I'm definitely getting out my comfort zone. Look at me. If y'all see my body language, if y'all know anything about body language, it's a vulnerable thing. You know what I'm saying? To, like, go out there, especially when you grow up in the type of environment that I did, man. Like, you always on edge. You always thinking about, what could go wrong. You looking at the exits. You looking at the slight change in somebody's body language. If they nose flare up, they raise an eyebrow. If they whisper into somebody, how they looking at you. Like, I notice all those things, man. And I really want to let it go. So hopefully as I get older and, let go of some of that post-traumatic stress, I'll be in a better place. But, the second thing is, for the first time in my life, I now have the opportunity to focus solely on myself. And it's crazy, y'all, because it almost feels like childlike. Like, when you're a kid and you don't have no cares in the world. Hold on, y'all. I actually have to change the battery real quick. I am back, y'all. I had some technical difficulties for a second there. You can say my memory card gave out on me. That means I'm talking too much. Let me get myself together. As I was saying, like, I now have an incredible opportunity to focus solely on myself, y'all, and not on family, not on friends, not on helping somebody from the community. It's literally just me. So I get to spend a lot more money on myself, which is nice. Spending more time with myself, just getting to know myself better, going out alone, and overall just doing a little bit more for me. And, believe it or not, like, I've never done this before. And, for a while, it kind of felt weird being my first priority. If you're somebody that's a giver or you're a very family-oriented person, you know exactly where I'm coming from with that. But lastly, I would say this is probably the most important thing, but through this entire experience, definitely building upon my confidence. And, because now that I'm spending so much time alone, I'm literally being forced to trust my own ideas like never before. Like, I'm literally being forced to trust what feels natural and innate to me. And that's something I didn't do much of while I was in Philly, I can honestly say, because I would always try to like shrink myself to fit in rooms because I didn't want to take up too much space or make people feel uncomfortable. But also, I didn't want to be judged by the people whose opinions I value the most. But what I'm learning is that sometimes when you place too much emphasis on the thoughts and opinions of those around you, whether that be family, friends, the neighborhood, or the larger community, you can actually lose sight of what you actually want for yourself. And then that original thought that you envision in your mind slowly becomes the product of the personal feelings, doubts, and projections of those around you, which is a very, very dangerous place to be in. So, if you've learned anything from me by this portion of the podcast, what I want you to take away is that in times of crisis, there will always be an opportunity. And if you come from the bottom like me, you know that the only way to go is up. So don't look at failure, missed opportunities, or even failed friendships as a reason to give up on yourself or lose hope. Trust me when I say that. That's just God, the universe, or whatever you believe in, making space for new people, better experiences, and brighter things. So just stay the course, y'all. Now, before I go into the tips, I do have one more portion that I wanted to talk about briefly, and that's just balancing the 9 to 5 and the 5 to 9. Outside of my love life and friendships, I'm still trying to find that balance of taking care of myself physically, spiritually, and emotionally while making time for the podcast, building up this brand, and just everything that I hope to do in the near future. So if you're a creative or an entrepreneur listening to this and you haven't yet made the jump to pursuing your passion full time, so for right now you got work for somebody else while you build yourself up, just know that I feel your pain, man. And if y'all have any tips for balancing your 9 to 5 and your 5 to 9, let me know in the comments, because this role is not for the weak at all. Sometimes I lack motivation. Sometimes I feel like I won't make it, or my ideas are stupid. Sometimes I compare myself to people who are my age who seem to have life figured all out. But every time I add a layer to my brand or put a new piece of content out that I'm proud of and see the reaction from all of you that I'm actually helping people in some way, it reaffirms to me that I'm on the right path and my intentions are in the right place. And on my best days, I know that. I definitely know that. But right now, I'm on a journey of not only building up my confidence, but I'm also building up my discipline and my consistency. So I just need y'all to keep rocking with me as I seek to improve in those areas. One of the ways I've started to just try to find my balance between the 9 to 5 and the 5 to 9 is by going to sleep earlier at night. And it's something that seems so minor, but at the same time, I just feel so much more refreshed to start my day. I have more time to eat a light breakfast before work, and I have the energy to go to the gym and get things done after work, which is very important. So eventually, my goal will be to wake up around 5, 6 a.m., shoot, maybe even 4, and I'll work out first thing in the morning, eat, work, and then prioritize the podcast and bring y'all the best type of content possible in the evening. So, that's the ultimate goal. But for right now, I actually have gotten back into the gym and I'm feeling good, man. I'm showering earlier. I'm putting down my phone at night and taking my ass to bed, y'all. I've actually been listening to Will Smith's memoir on Audible. One of my good friends, Aiden, sent it to me. So Aiden, I just want to say thank you. But if Will Smith happens to see or hear this one day, man, we got a lot in common, my boy. You said, get at me, man. I need the mentorship. Get at me. Use the Fresh Prince, and they call me Young Loso, okay? You mean? But anyways, shout out to Will Smith, man. And what was I saying? Oh, in doing all of this, my hope is that I just start to feel more refreshed, have more energy, and have the motivation to crank out this content after a long day at work until, I'm able to do this full time. And I actually recently signed up for something really cool, y'all. And, in the new year out here, if I was selected for this program. So just keep fingers crossed for me and, put good energy out in the air for your boy. Now, to finish this episode out, because I know I talked for a long time, way longer than I expected. I want to give y'all some personal tips on some of the things that have helped me navigate adulthood, but also share some of the responses I got from a poll that I did on Instagram on my story. And I just asked people what area of adulthood has hit them the hardest. You know what I'm saying? And, hopefully this reveals to y'all, that you're not alone in what you're experiencing, and that we're all out here doing the best that we can. So, let's get into it. I'm going to share my list, and, feel free to drop some more gems in the comments, or even, what's been the hardest part of adulthood for you. So let me pull this up real quick. You know what I'm saying? Going to archives to see some of the responses I was getting, but a lot of people said bills, y'all. They is not playing with us out here, man. Y'all need to pay us more, man. All right, I got it. So here goes some of the things that people were saying. Balance between family, career, and friendships. Bills, parenting, balancing work, family, school, and fun. My unhealed inner child. Making friends and maintaining existing friendships while adulting. Becoming a mother. Working for someone else instead of myself. Learning that others' expectations for my life didn't have to be mine. That's a good one. Paying bills. Remembering everything. Like, there's so much to remember to do. Getting paid on payday and still end up not having any money. Ain't that the truth? It's boring and bland. Very lives up to the hype. You need a new life, my brother. Sorry if that was harsh. Thinking of what to make for dinner every night. Uber Eats has been stealing all my bread. I need a sponsorship. Can y'all work with me? Like, can we work something out, please, Uber Eats? Like, I give y'all so much of my bread. I think I'm on diamond status on the app. You know what I'm saying? But what else? Realizing that past relationships didn't work out because I didn't love myself enough. Sheesh. I'm about to eat an Oreo. I love you. And just here to say that I think you're a sexy emoji faces. I like that. You know what I'm saying? I threw the other ones in there on purpose at the end, y'all. You know what I'm saying? That's the ego speaking. But anyways, y'all, I shared all of that just so y'all know that you're not by yourself. You know what I'm saying? We all are struggling in our own ways, and we all are going and getting through things that we may never talk about out loud. So I'm glad that, people felt comfortable sharing those things with me. Now on to, some of the tips, and that's how we going to close this episode out. You know what I'm saying? And